It's happening. It's happening. You made it. Look at this. This is amazing. Welcome, Alex. How are you doing? GM
Thank
of Constructed Chaos.
Welcome yourself. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm just vibing along with you.
I know, and as we were just talking about the, I have so for those of you who don't know me in my Luddite ways, this is literally, I believe, the third time I've ever pressed record on this dinosaur of a computer, and this is the first time I've ever attempted any kind of online interview or anything like that. So this will be an experience. I have I was teasing Alex that I have my 2012 YouTube vibes going on here with, kind of too much light in the background, the candle burning on the,
No, it looks great. And you push that record button with the experience of an absolute professional.
So, well, wow, we got
great.
We could just tick that off right there. So one thing I discovered about Google Meets is that on the recording, it actually just flips back and forth between the two of us, and I am nowhere near savvy enough to figure out how to do that. So, sorry, we'll have to victimize. You'll have to be my first victim here, and then I'll figure out how to do a split screen.
Oh, that's totally fine. I don't mind. I'll try not to jump in with random ahas and yes, as I tend to do.
It's hard. It's hard. Yes. So I guess I'll go ahead and kick this off by just asking you for kind of some background or some context for yourself as a GM or as a human or as a streamer, however you want to tackle that. Alex, go ahead.
Sure. So really, I started my YouTube journey because I found D&D a bit late in my life and a bit late into the life of the hobby and fell in love instantly. It was during the height of the pandemic, and I was a cinematographer, so there wasn't a ton of work to be had. I decided, why not just throw myself into YouTube and create some guides for other people to play the same game while also sharing our homebrew campaign. I always kind of wanted to be a writer, and so in a weird way, this is kind of fulfilling every possible facet of what I've wanted to do my entire life, and it's only grown over the past 3 years, and I'm really excited to see people not only engaging with the guide content, but with the stories that we're telling and the live streams that we're producing. So,
absolutely. Before we get any further, I want everybody to know that I think after having done a fair amount of kind of research, I think the guide that you have for streaming like a pro is pretty remarkable.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's you really touch on a lot. I took some fairly extensive notes. It runs right around half an hour, and man, you tear through a lot of different stuff. So I want to put that in the description of this and make sure that everyone has a chance to refer that. And I'm going to be interviewing our own producer, Justin, and he has some different approaches, some stuff where he's like, man, I wish I'd watched this video before I
well, and as you can imagine, a lot of it was trial and error, even with a cinematography background. A lot of it was me trying to do things on a shoestring budget where work and money was kind of tight. So whenever I came out on the other side of it, full of my own mistakes, I wanted to put something out there to hopefully keep other people's mistakes to a minimum and maybe help some other streams out if I could.
I think that's a good. So this was a question I had for you a little bit down, but I think that's a natural segue. So I guess I wanted to ask to lead with what joys and what challenges kind of surprised you during this process of streaming?
Yeah. So I guess I'll start off like at the very beginning. When we first tried to stream, I tried to stream from my Mac, which I don't know if anybody has ever tried to do themselves, but Slobs and OBS, the streaming softwares that most people run their streams on, do not run well on Mac. And so I got it up on our YouTube channel and it was super glitchy and dropped out within like a few minutes. So I had to settle for a recording. And I have to give props to my wife on this beginning part, because I am a bit of a perfectionist at times. And I kind of wanted to back off and say, hey, we're not even gonna run the session until I can get it to work. She convinced me, like, just run it, get it rolling, get the session recorded. Torpedoes be damned, full speed ahead. You might as well start now. And I did. And I think that philosophically, right, is like the biggest challenge for anyone, is just to start, even if you don't have the perfect setup, even if you don't have all the exact equipment you need, even if you know there are changes that you want to make, just start. And let me tell you, starting will unveil problems that you didn't even know you had. And as intimidating as that sounds, it is progress, right? So whether it was realizing that having a microphone at the center of the table to capture everyone sounded absolutely terrible, or our internet dropping even on some of our more recent streams, and wanting to make that a more reliable situation for us with our ISP. There's always going to be some new challenge for you to overcome. And I'd say that at the beginning, the biggest one is just starting. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. In the joys, something.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Oh my God. I went full pessimist there. I mean, the joys really were getting those first few episodes out and getting some legitimate feedback, even if it was, some of it was really positive, like, oh my gosh, I can tell you guys really enjoy, I really like this moment, blah, blah, blah. And some of it was, hey, I can't really hear so-and-so. If you're not allowing yourself to be excited about things that you can change and improve on, if seeing comments of people engaging with your story or with your content doesn't compel you to make more, then you might be doing the wrong thing. Yeah. So
Amen.
Biggest joy.
Amen for sure. Well, I want to go one layer deeper then.
Okay.
And I wanted to ask you, and obviously just for those wondering, I did not send Alex any of these questions ahead of time. So I'm just ambushing him with the stuff as we go.
Hey, I like the chaos. Bring it on.
Yes. I wonder. What? And this is something I ask of a lot of different creatives, kind of in informal conversation of all sorts of media and forms of it. I've been privileged to have some really just extraordinary humans, as mentors and as colleagues and all kinds of things. But what space does role playing occupy in your life?
Honestly, D&D as a whole and role playing has fulfilled a lot of long-term deep desires for me. Wanting to write, wanting to tell stories, and wanting to escape just the realities of daily life. Not that everything in life is bad, but sometimes you do want to escape and be someone else, experience something new and fresh, and something that isn't possible in the real world. For me, role play is a way to scratch that creative itch without any sort of concern over budgetary. Oh, we can't do this scene because it would be too much for special effects, or we can't do this because we don't have this certain piece of gear. Screw that. You have theater of the mind. You're imagining with your friends. I remember growing up, even with my brother who plays in our campaigns, we would play pretend in the yard. I was probably way too old to be doing that, but I loved it. And now that I'm older, I look back on that and think, that's kind of just a core part of who I am and who I think a lot of other people are when the doors are shut. Allowing yourself to be imaginative and be that inner child again is just so fulfilling.
Do you think that's why humans have an endless appetite for storytelling? Do you think there's more to it? How do you, I guess a corollary, question would be, what do you think the human need or desire, or is it a need for storytelling comes from? What's going on there, do you think?
Well, as somebody that can't even watch horror movies because I am always a bit too ready to put myself into the shoes of the characters on the screen. Yeah, I think it is the fact that people kind of want that escapism and they want to imagine themselves as someone else. Even in the days of Beowulf being the epic fantasy tale that it was, I'm sure that the people telling those stories and the people hearing them couldn't help but imagine themselves in the role of that intense and action-packed adventure.
For sure. I know. I think that's definitely part of it. I also think it's part of how we process our reality and how we I know like when my little brother was 12, he was still 12 when we started this Marvel campaign, and I felt good. I felt good that I could kind of guide him through this transition from kid to young to child to young man, and we could explore these big questions, and we could have these great adventures, and kind of do these larger than life things. And it was all in the safety of our living room.
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
kind of that kind of thing. So to continue to kind of dig, which is my MO, your storytelling. Why stream though? Why storytell while streaming?
Well, I mean, honestly, it just became as I mentioned or alluded to earlier. I as a kid, I wanted to write. My mother was an English teacher, and so she, as a kid, she would only let me ask for things if I spoke in a complete sentence. Just it didn't always work out that way, but it was clever and it was funny, and I think it instilled in me a deep love for reading and writing, and I always wanted to share those stories with people. I even as a musician for a period of time, I really enjoyed the experience of seeing other people experience what I made. So when I started making a D&D homebrew campaign with more than enough time on my hands, it was a no-brainer to start streaming, just to put it out there and share it. I figured, I'm doing all this work and I'm making this thing with my friends, and I think it's fun. Maybe other people will too. There was a small amount of me that was like, maybe if I could eventually turn this into a career, that would be super awesome. But the main thing was really just being able to share the stories. Yeah.
I completely get that. That definitely resonates. I often tell my players, and we talk about this before every stream, that better stories make better humans. I really believe that. So I guess yeah. I don't want to bury the lead here. So what advice would you have? We're getting toward the end of the questions that I knew I wanted to ask you.
Sure.
For sure. But I want to, for anybody who's interested in streaming, whatever that looks like for them, whether it's just recording their own sessions, their own homebrew sessions, and kind of analyzing those and going over those, and that can be very helpful to a full-blown, huge, big budget production if they happen to have the capital for that.
Right.
What advice would you have for someone who's looking at this and saying, I want to do an actual play table, I want to run an actual play table, or at least participate in one or help one come about. I don't have the first clue as to where to start. Like, I have the motivation. I hear you, Alex. I have the motivation. I'm going to do it. But like, how do I even start opening that door?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, philosophically, just starting, even if you don't have all the pieces of that puzzle yet, is the most important step. But as I mentioned in that video that you alluded to earlier, if you're going to spend money anywhere, audio is king, especially for a very verbal medium such as playing D&D. So much is theater of the mind and descriptions that you're end viewers are really relying on being able to hear you clearly and concisely and be engaged by the sounds that you're making for certain creatures if you do that, or the accents that you do if you do that. So in this space, more than any, audio is king, and I think that's even a rule of thumb outside of this space. So I would say, do a little bit of research on some good microphones and audio interface to start, and from there, you could wrangle up some GoPros if you need to for your video content, or if you really want, you go the route of webcams if they're a little bit cheaper now, or maybe everybody brings their own laptop and you find a way to link all that in with a same room Zoom meeting. There are so many different ways to do this for varying budgets. The one thing that I say stays consistent from a technical standpoint really is just audio is so important, I find.
Oh, for sure. And our producer Justin, that was the bugaboo. That was the bugaboo. The audio was rough and continues to be, a pretty formidable challenge. I watch all the things.
I was gonna say, I think you guys have done a really good job of it, especially having like off-camera mics or mics that are not directly in front of your talent like we do. I think that can be really hard to manage. So I think you guys are doing a great job with that.
Thank you. I coming from you, that means a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. I won't go off on this, but just like, for example, I'm a really, in my space, I'm a really physical GM.
Mm-hmm.
I like to act things out. I like to interact, because I come from several different backgrounds that kind of inform that. One of them is LARPing. One of them is one of them is martial arts. One of them, I'm used to interacting and feeling that energy. And one of the things, man, I go back and I watch like the pilot and the first couple of episodes, and I can see how uncomfortable I am because I have this mic above my head, and I'm like, okay, I'm about to go, this teeny creature is about to leap out and do this attack. I'm like, yeah, stay on mic, like I do this little.
Well, and look, if it makes you feel any better, I certainly didn't notice it, and you probably are one of the only people that will, because when I look back on my old stuff, I notice similar things. Lots of uhs and ums, very obvious discomfort in not being willing to take a pause. Something that I've been working on, as is evident by my uhs and ums, even in this interview. But as time has gone on, it's something that I've improved upon. And honestly, I never even heard anybody complain about it from the beginning. So it's just something I saw.
That's a great boy. You were teeing me up, Alex. Are you sure you didn't get a copy of these questions?
Did I really? Maybe there's a little bit of divination going on right now.
A little bit. I mean, I definitely, as someone who's also been a professional psychic in their run, it wouldn't surprise me. But no, I'd be impressed, because I'm strictly analog here, baby. So this is all just written down on my notepad.
That doesn't account for my scrying sphere I have right off.
Oh, well, yeah, right. You're Palantir. You just kind of chilling there. I was gonna ask how. Yeah, this is really professional. I was gonna ask, what skills as a GM for GMing for an actual play table have you had to really bone up? Like, for me, the bane of my existence is voice acting.
Mm-hmm.
So because I got to grind on my accent. It has not been pretty. So what have you found about that? Like, what have you had to really try to bear down on, or grind, or just let happen?
Well, certainly, I feel your pain on the voice acting front. As someone who has always struggled to even talk in my own manner of voice, it's hard for me to adopt other accents. And anytime I think about it too hard, I'm in my own head and words don't come out of my mouth. So that definitely was one of them. And I will also, before I move on to what really was troubling for me, I'll make a quick side note of it's not entirely necessary to do the voice. Obviously, you hear people say it all the time. I think it's engaging for my players, but there have been times where I've been uncomfortable and I just fall back on one of the familiar accents, and that's okay too. They hardly notice it most of the time. But I'll say that the thing that really needed to change for me was two sides of the same issue, which was really just the preparation. And I think that's a sore point for a lot of DMs, whether they're streaming their games or not. I have heard for so long the old joke about a DM approaching a table with a single note about a goblin and a top hat, and that's all they got, and that was the whole session. I've seen shorts and videos on that topic before, and thought to myself, man, I can't wait to be that guy. It took a long time for me to eventually realize that I'm not that guy. I'm the kind of DM that preps the crap out of my sessions. And in doing so, it's not to prevent my players from doing something unexpected.
Sure.
In fact, I welcome that. In preparing, it allows me instead to encourage them in doing something unexpected. So I would say when you're running a live play where you really got to keep the ball moving and keep your audience engaged and keep the table having fun without, food or snack breaks in between, having a very robust amount of preparation is important, at least in what I've seen. Maybe other people are better at improving than I am, but I've got to have I've got to have certain story elements and characters pretty much fully fleshed out. I do, some improv whenever the inspiration strikes me, but really that preparation informs that improv. So it's a key component, at least in our streams.
Absolutely, and I well said. I feel and experience pretty much all of that. And one of the things that I want to say to the goblin and top hat situation, and that's not to say that there aren't significant parts of Darkeport that are improvised.
Yeah,
but and here's a key thing, you aspiring GMs, understanding your world well enough that you understand the interstitial tissue in between these sections and how they interrelate is key.
Yeah,
it's key. And it's one thing to entertain people at the table. It's another thing to have a coherent, internally consistent story that links and has a through line for 150 episodes. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, and thank you for elaborating. That's the sort of preparation that I look to do when I prepare for a game. I kind of think in terms of scenes, almost things that I kind of want to happen, and then whatever chaos happens in the middle of that is totally fine. But more than anything, because I've thought through the motivations for certain characters, the way that the world works, if the players veer off of that path, I'm most often ready for it, rather than just having a note about a goblin in a top hat.
Well, you're killing me over here, Alex. You're killing me. No, it's great. It's great. I love it. I guess I'll go ahead and just ask the question that my players ask me sometimes. What percent is improv and what percent is planned?
So I would say that's kind of 50-50 in most of our streams. Obviously there are some where things really go off the rails. And when I say things are planned or prepped, the scenarios are, but the outcomes are not. So I guess a slight spoiler alert. I won't divulge too much, but in the session we ran last Wednesday, there was a particularly powerful magic item MacGuffin that was swiped from one of the bad guys at the very start of a combat. I had the player character roll a number of checks. They succeeded on all of them with some help from chat. And even though it wasn't something that I had planned on happening, wasn't something that I had accounted for, I allowed it because I was like, okay, well, I prepared enough to know that this is what would happen if they steal that, you know?
No, I think that was a perfect example. It was a sterling example of preparation meeting the moment, and where you're secure enough in how the world works, and like you said, you know what's going to happen, and the moment's been prepared for. So you can have something that is kind of, you're venturing into crazy town, but you still get to keep the coherent, internally consistent story.
Exactly. Yeah, you're not skydiving without a parachute.
That's a very, very evocative way to say it. No, I love that. And I guess kind of my final question down this particular track would be, I've watched enough now, because y'all are at episode 22, yes?
22 was the most recent one.
22. So, and I'm kind of like on this. I started from the beginning, and I'm watching, and I think I'm on episode 7 right now, and then I've watched the last 2 streams as well. So I'm kind of getting this weird, like, oh my God, what are the children doing this week? How did these lovely characters get in this hellhole?
Well, it's like watching Star Wars in the order it was released, right?
Right, exactly. So it's and I planned it like I'm going to catch all the way up, but I'm keeping current too. There's this really interesting bifurcated viewing experience. But anyway, that aside, I've seen, and everybody has their different takes as a GM, and kind of what they prefer and what they like. I'm infamous for I have a, God, I would say almost even a fundamentally different vision of what 5e, of how I want to run 5e and the feel of the world. And like, I'm telling this pretty grounded, gritty, very low magic war story where it's like, when you dead, you dead.
Yeah.
And
I love that, by the way.
Thank you.
Really refreshing in the space of 5e. I mean, I've even looked to Pathfinder for some absolutism when it comes to death, the finality of it.
There's death, and then there's like, I've been a combat medic. I was a combat medic in Iraq, and so there's going to be infection in the game. There's going to be people getting demoralized and sick and dying of pneumonia, and I mean, just all kinds of stuff that is the antithesis of high fantasy, but I think is still it's super important, and that'll be a different talk, and I don't want to I don't want to suck up the oxygen here but I mean,
it's a natural progression of the conversation wherein you guys explore an entire other realm of fantasy, which is an absolute realism. It raises the stakes and makes it more exciting without super loud voices and chat donating, whatever. It has this tension beneath that just pervades everything else. Yeah.
Wow, that's really generous of you, Alex. Thank you.
I mean it.
Thank you. And I was going to ask, what, when you're looking at like the rules, there's this phrase on Reddit, rules as written. When you're looking at the rules and when you're looking at the narrative, when those two are in conflict with each other, how do you decide not just what direction to go, because it's not black and white? How do you decide what ratio, if that question makes sense, to apply to that situation of the rules, the mechanics of it, but then also you want the narrative to be able to breathe and develop?
In my mind, there's a certain elasticity that comes with the rules for D&D, and it always boils down to rule of cool for me. I think if a player is trying something really flavorful and exciting, I never want to discourage that, even if it's against the rules technically. Again, I mean, that what happened last session is a great example of it, because I think the player in question had already used their action to become invisible and then was trying to steal something from someone else with just a bonus action. Technically, you shouldn't be able to do that.
Right.
But I kind of had them make some checks. They succeeded on the checks. I thought it was a great idea. I thought it was really evocative role play. And so I let it happen.
Okay.
Now, when I say there's a certain elasticity, things can be stretched until they're apt to break. Eventually.
Yeah.
So if this player had used their action to become invisible and then bonus action teleported and then wanted to give the BBEG a wedgie and then steal the item, no, I would probably either no but or yes but that situation, just to keep things moving clearly and concisely, because as much as I love chaos, too much of it will just blow everything up,
Too much of a good thing.
Yes. Yeah.
So another thing I've noticed about your table, I've noticed several. I've noticed quite a few. And actually, I guess that this is just as good of a point, because you're not going to do it yourself, but I can do it for you, and I'm going to do it for you. This man, this human here that I'm talking to, frickin' built the table. So he's like a carpenter. He's like a low-key carpenter. He has this huge background in cinematography. There's this whole practical effects thing that's going on at that table as well. He's GMing to an excellent capacity. He's running the flippin' chat, admittedly with help, but still, he's running the flippin' chat. And on top of all of that, now I find out that you were a musician. Like, what is up with you? You're out of control over there. Stop it.
I mean, look, took a little bit of therapy, and the fact that I used to jump ship from hobby to hobby and constantly searching for something better. I would get bored with things really easily. But I haven't found the limits of D&D yet. So for better or for worse, I'm sticking this one out.
They're pretty, no, seriously, D&D, and it's funny because D&D was not even my initial jam. And 5e, I old, so 5e is not. I was a little red book baby, and if you know, you know. So like early 80s,
Yeah.
like the kids in Stranger Things. It's like, yeah, that was kind of me. So it's a very, very different, very, very different feel to it. Like clerics only heal, kind of thing. It's not like Twilight clerics are the
best damage dealers, the best healers. Yeah, I just do it all.
That was not a thing in my. That was absolutely not a thing in my day. But one of the things I've noticed about your table is y'all have really, really good rapport and flow at that table. Mm-hmm. You do.
Thank you. I owe a lot to the people that sit at the table with me. I really do.
So for people who are wondering, because I get this, I also run a table at our local, actually it's pretty physically large now. It's expanded over the years. Our local fantasy, comic book and role play shop and everything called Dragon Slayer every Saturday. And so there, I love, we're gaming, but also hobnob with people coming by, and I've had some. Even like set up some meetings with some of the younger generation who are like, really, okay, I want to do this right. And they're serious. These kids are like, sharp dogs. It's like, I want to do this right. How do I, how does this happen? It's beeping at me. I don't think did I initiate the self-destruct? Let me see. North to it. All right. And one of the things is, so what do you attribute that to? That rapport, that ease, the back and forth, where they know when to push, when to give, but also they know when. I feel like they know when they're being too greedy. Mm-hmm. Is it because you have family members at the table? Is it because you have like a deep level of trust with each other? You've run other campaigns. You're secretly all kind of a telepathic hive mind. Like what is going on over there?
Like any other human being, I've certainly watched my fair share of internet drama junk, wherein people talk about nightmare DM or player situations, people running way off the deep end with some really nasty antics, whether just not good stuff. I have personally never had to experience that. I count myself and probably a lucky few that can say that. Most of my games have been with people that I know quite well. And I guess I've kind of taken the same approach to building my D&D table as I did to marriage. My wife and I were best friends for like 2 years before we even started dating. Um, Same thing with the people at my table. I've known them for a very long number of years. And the few people that I haven't known for very long, I was very careful about, integrating them into that network of people around the table, because it takes a lot for some people to role play, for them to feel comfortable being someone else, and to play comfortably, I think is what brings a lot of the excitement to someone like watching. When someone doesn't feel comfortable in the role that they're in, and they don't want to speak up whenever it's obviously their time to shine, there's those odd silences that just sort of stale the moment out.
Yeah.
I think it's important for everyone to be comfortable with everyone else. So in the situation where we had a new player that I didn't know very well, we actually played a couple of off-stream games just to kind of get each other useful. Then I had them on for one of the one-shots in our original campaign. Then we ran our short-running campaign, the Forgotten Flame, that ran for like 6 episodes. And after I saw that like this group was vibing really well, I felt confident enough to commit that group to a long-running campaign. And so I don't think there's any tried and true way to do it. But at least for me, there was a lot of thought put into who was sitting at the table with whom and how well they work together, because I want everyone to be comfortable.
I love that. That's a really, that's a really lucid, well articulated answer. And
even if a little rambly, sorry.
Yeah, we here at Darkeport, we love discursion. It's wonderful. So, I guess the next thing I want to ask you is, in your estimation, what makes the greats great? So, like, I would say that Matt Mercer is almost preternaturally graceful when he's doing his thing. He just flows. Brennan Lee Mulligan is like this. I've likened him before to like this just volcano of creativity and power. What makes the greats great, and what are you working on for yourself where you really feel called to express, like what your highest expression of GMing would be? Like for me, it would be depth, and like emotional depth and poignancy. And I feel like I can have moments of real connection and real power there.
Yeah. I think that what makes great DMs great, you kind of touched on it a little bit, is the fact that they play to their individual strengths. If there are any aspiring DMs watching this interview, I would really like to drive home for them that you should not necessarily set out to be like Matt Mercer or like Brennan Lee Mulligan. If you are like them, awesome. I think that's great. If you want to try to be more like them, I think that makes sense too. If you want to try and take some of what they do and add it to your games because that is what feels natural to you, go for it. But you should never feel pressured to be like those other DMs, because I fervently believe that everyone has their own individual spark, whether it is the fact that you can tell these really emotive stories grounded in realism and have these tearful and joyous moments right alongside each other, or whether you're like me and you feel like having a very well interwoven and interconnected story with a lot of different moving parts that can engage people through the chaos of chat. Maybe that's what you're called to do. Geez, I don't mean to make this sound like some sort of priesthood or vocation, but I think everyone has their own way of DMing, and as long as you're progressing and your players are having fun at the table, I don't think there's any wrong way to do it. So
you have to find, to that point though, Alex, you really do have to find your animating passion, don't you? If you're going to last in this kind of thing. This may look easy, kids, but this is some rough work, man. Like I'm a deeply introverted person and a private person, and like for me to make the decision, like, yeah, we're just going to open that box and get into all of Angel's unresolved war trauma. Like that's been a whole, well, it's not all unresolved, but it's just, that was a whole thing. But we have to find your passion, and what do you think that what would you say your what would Alex's final form be as a GM?
I guess my final form would just be a guy that's got a really firm grasp on the world and can pick up and play or pick up and run any number of adventures at a moment's notice. My goal is to build an expansive and compelling sandbox for my players to screw up. I think that's the part that I really enjoy is obviously the world building aspect of it, but making it feel real to them and making them feel confident enough to play characters that exist in that world, rather than characters that are set to do a task. They exist there.
That you touch on one of the things that I practically proselytize to my players about, that the world it must be a living, breathing, coherent creature in and of itself. Like the world itself is a character in the setting. Well, I have two more questions for you.
Okay.
Because you and I, my friend, we could go on and on here.
We could.
I want to be respectful of your time and of the audience's time. So, I know this is kind of some people may think this question is pablum, but I think it is important. If you could give yourself advice, now at the beginning of your journey, at whatever point you wish to place that at, what would it be?
Oh man, there's a phrase rattling around inside of my head that it's going to sound like way too therapy induced, but I think I would just tell myself it's okay. And I think the me back then would probably know that it's okay to mess up. It's okay if like the story doesn't quite line up, or if your players do something expected that throws everything off. It's okay if the stream fails or falls flat on its ass when your ISP drops your signal. It's okay. It's all okay. You're all having fun. And honestly, if something needs to be changed or retconned, if you need to scramble to reweave the thread after losing it mid-session, that's all okay. That's what it's about. People are there to have fun. Nobody is going to berate you for messing up. That happens.
Woo!
Yeah.
I think I needed to hear that today. Thank you.
I need to hear it most days as well, as is evident by me mentioning a few events that occurred relatively recently.
Indeed, for myself, I think it was the 5th episode, and for a whole lot of reasons, I've never really gone on stream or even at a round table. Maybe sometime we'll go into this, but there was a scene, and I was struggling, so I lost it. I mean, it was like, boy, this is live television. And this is, to me, I'm old enough that to me, that's how I think of it. It's live television. It's like, yep, here we go. I'm just gonna be crying in front of all of God and creation. It was really something. And sometimes I think I'm insane for doing this. But, you know, to have that level of
We're all insane. That's what keeps it interesting. And to your credit, I think that conveys a sense of very genuine storytelling. The fact that you were able to connect with it so much. Some people have to try to cry on camera. You do it naturally. So kudos to you. And I mean that genuinely. I really do.
I hear that, and I thank you for that. So I wanted to end with a little hobby horse of mine,
Mhm.
and I think I'm going to be asking pretty much everybody that I interview, and we'll have to circle back when I have this operation more in hand, and we don't have to like jump back and forth like, you know, that's like a strobe light between
Hey, it's all good. It's working. Looks great to me.
But and I'm going to grope a bit because this question isn't as polished yet, and I've just been kicking it around.
Okay.
But when I actually, you know what, I lied. I do have I do have another one. So as I'm formulating that question, I do want your take on, and just I have my own potentially selfish reasons for asking this. I would love to get you on record. One of the longest debates that we've had in Darkeport, and I won't go into the back and forth. I mean, just in terms of like the founders and the production and all of that, I would say production crew, but I mean, let's be real. Justin's like an octopus back there on stream, not, you know, manipulate, doing like the job that I think like 6 or 7 different people do on Critical Role. It's like
the Kraken.
It's not an octopus. It's a freaking Kraken. Right? What is your take, Alex, on the strengths of live streaming versus the strengths of pre-recording? As you have obviously had some bitter fruit with live stream, but you're still like, I feel like really committed to that. Why is that, and what's your take on that?
I mean, my take is neither is the wrong or right approach. I think both have, as I'm sure you've experienced, have very different feelings to them. I think that with a pre-recorded session, you have the chance to make things as exactly right as you want them to be for your audience, and you have a little bit more control over how the story flows. And I think that control is really important. It's the same reason why writers don't often release their first drafts. But on the flip side, with live streaming, I think you get the benefit of actually interacting with your viewers and allowing them to almost have a seat at the table as well. So there is some give and take there. And I have learned to love the on-brand chaos that our chat brings to our games, whether they're gifting a magic item in the middle of combat or giving a player a free natural 20 to steal the super powerful MacGuffin. I think it's exciting for the people viewing. And even though it might seem like they're derailing things, I like to view it as them being a part of the game. And in that way, they are derailing it as a player would. And I'm totally okay with that.
I hear that. I totally hear that. Yeah, the on-brand chaos. I also feel like I know that I'm sharper when I know that it's live, and I feel like the players, because we've had to do both, and I feel like the players might even be a little bit just, I don't know if on point is the right way to characterize that, but I don't know. Have you found that or no?
I certainly have, although I will say that we haven't. Well, I guess we did. We pre-recorded the last few sessions of our first campaign because I was going to be gone for like 6 weeks, and my friends were about to have their baby, so like that wasn't going to be possible when I got back. But in large part, we haven't pre-recorded a session since the beginning, and it did feel kind of clunky. But that could have also just been because it was the beginning. I do certainly feel like when the red record light, the proverbial red record light turns on at the beginning of a session, people do tend to come alive. Yeah.
I think so. I think so, but I mean, fair enough. Maybe that's hard to say. So yeah, the actual last question I wanted to ask was, I feel like, so this is my working hypothesis right now.
Mhm.
I feel like actual play, what I'm seeing right now, is something different. I am now entering 39 years of GMing. And this is something is going on right now.
Mhm.
And I'm also a, armchair historian. And there's something going on right now that is different from anything that I have seen happen with role play. You had the Satanic Panic, you had,
Mhm.
the kind of the weird renaissance in the 90s, but it was like all like really geek, and it had to do with like the weird stuff that was going on with comic books, super comic book geek through the 90s as well,
Yeah.
for myself. But I feel like, and this could be its whole own conversation, but I wanted your thoughts on, or even just your intuitions on, do you see actual play as an emergent media that hasn't existed before? And I mean that, to me, it feels like part radio show, part, in our cases, live television, like film before a live television studio audience, that
Yeah.
kind of, part theater,
Yeah.
and then also like part campfire story that humans have been doing since we had words, and maybe since before we were like technically humans. So
Right.
I feel like there's something emergent. And like I said, this is very inartfully worded right now, because I've just been kicking this around kind of in my own head.
No, but I get where you're coming from. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you feeling? What are you feeling about that? What do you intuit about that? What are you observing about that what we're doing right now? And we're inside of it, so we're actually probably the worst people to ask. um, what has your experience been around that? Do you feel like this is something that hasn't really existed before?
Well, as someone who has a perspective that comes from the Hollywood film industry,
Mm.
someone that has kind of put that work on the back burner to do some of this because it is so freeing. Um, it feels almost to me like an improv version of like a round table script reading sometimes. I know it's not that, because everyone is, playing their own characters. There isn't a script. And as much prep as I do, things still go, completely haywire at times. Um, but I do feel like it carries some of the same, like, sort of Broadway uh, 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 excitement that you get from watching people perform live in front of you, uh, while also kind of filling a hole I think that the Hollywood film industry has created in recent years. Not to uh, go too far on this tangent, but I feel like films and movies have been more and more um, uh, derivative of other properties as time has gone on. We're doing remakes of remakes now.
Yep.
People are tired of the same old stories, and unfortunately, a lot of the big budgets in Hollywood are not going to the writers that are bringing something new and fresh and well written to the table. And so, in the absence of that, I feel like this medium, at least for me, has come into has come onto my desk as a way for me to uh, tell stories unhindered by a big looming executive saying you can't have the budget for this, or no, we're not going to fund that. And in a way, in an age where Kickstarters and backer kit and all this stuff is kind of getting funding from the community before the product is out, it almost feels like to me that's what actual play exists alongside. I won't say it's the same thing, because obviously it is a finished product that people are enjoying. But in a way, like if I one day wanted to turn in one of these adventures into a book that was inspired by the adventure, in a way, the people that were watching the live stream as it happened, the people that helped to support the channel, made that possible because they're supporting just absolute raw, unfiltered storytelling. So that's what it feels like to me.
Damn, that is a really, really good contextualization of that. I had not thought, I've dipped my toes before in indie film. Just I had a kind of a brief period and did just a little bit of acting. I wasn't serious about it or anything, but I wanted to see, and there's so much of that in Austin. And man, when you said an improv table, script reading around a table, that is I thank you for that.
Of course. And this is just my own perspective. It's very obviously biased by my own experiences. And
Sure.
I'm sure you have your own take on what this is. And I do agree that it is definitely an emergent media. It is kind of a new way to experience storytelling, a la Whose Line Is It Anyway? But
this, well, and this is why I'm asking. This is why I want to ask everyone that I interview Alex this question, because I feel like we're the wise men groping around the elephant right now. That tale where we're
Yeah.
It's like, oh no, it's a snake, because it's like a snake, because it has and the trunk, and all this, and that is that. I'm gonna have to digest that. The looking at that as improv, because one of the even to this day, one of the players, okay, I have to be careful here.
Yeah.
A family member of one of the players, in the sweetest, most beautiful way, is like, oh, that's lovely. It's just amazing that you can memorize a script every week for 3 hours. And to this day, that individual believes, probably, as we have this conversation, that individual still believes that it's all a script.
Fair enough. I mean, more power to them. Whatever helps them to enjoy it, however they can rationalize it and still enjoy the medium is totally fine. You should throw more uhs and ums in your language, and they'll maybe realize that it's not.
And they'll know, right. They'll know. Well, I mean, I think you're pretty well inoculated against that criticism, because y'all have this just vibrant, kind of sometimes crazy ass chat going on that participated in.
Yeah.
No way this is scripted. It's too ridiculous to be scripted.
It complete with Morgan hitting the wrong magic item button or one of the job descriptions, and realizing halfway through me describing it, I was like, oh, well, guess it's a headband of intellect now. Oh,
oh my gosh.
Good stuff.
Well, I want to get out. I want to get out to y'all at some point.
Yeah,
and,
please do.
And visit. I'd love to. I'd like, if you have some nefarious NPC or whatever. I've even this is how much of a compulsive geek I am, Alex. I've already been like, well, what if I did like a family member for one of these characters, and then like, okay, well, I'll work with Alex, and we'll surprise this person, and I'll do it like this, and then this is the spin I'll take on this, and maybe I can be like the hidden sibling, or
Yeah, let's do it. I'm so about it. Hey, look, we got a spare bedroom right next to my office here. If you need a place to stay, I'll cook some gumbo. We'll have a good time. It'll be awesome.
That sounds, man. That sounds great. And then if you ever make it, I guess I'll get you on the record. Is if you ever make it to Austin, would you be down for like a roundtable with all the GMs that I can kind of scare up?
Absolutely, I would. I love Austin, and I haven't been in a couple of years, so definitely would love to come pay a visit and just hang out with you guys in person.
That would be great. I'd love to show off the studio that Corey, who plays Merrick, he built. It took like, I don't know, like 5 different people to do what you did in yours.
Well, why do I feel like if you come here and I go there, we're gonna have very mirrored reactions to the set? I'm gonna see it and be like, wow, this is amazing. And you're gonna see mine and you're gonna be like, wow, this is way more of a dumpster fire than I thought it was.
No.
You only see where the camera's pointed. You don't see the stuff off camera, Angel.
Okay, I have to get one more comment in, because you're babies, because the puppers are their own characters. So I have literally developed lore in the world because in real life I have a pug and a Boston Terrier in my life.
Yep.
I don't own them, but I'm actually puppy sitting right now.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, for their person is out of state right now, and so that's become a leftist terrier and an old empire pug. And I've been trying so hard to convince the adults of Darkeport, which I do not count myself as one, that the pug, at least, because he will just sit, he'll just sit, but he also is like just such a complete attention, you know what? And so can't say that because we are recording now. So
Sure, yeah.
Some spicy language earlier before we started recording, but and I'm like, no, really, we can work him in as a character, and our music producer always points out Steve. He's so hilarious. You've got to meet this guy.
I'm excited.
Like,
yeah,
and with Patrick Stewart holding the pug in Dune as they're going into battle. Yeah, and I'm like, see, it's there. And at Alex's table, Mabel gets to go into the camera.
It is a necessary evil. Let me tell you, that dog is spoiled. We love her so much, but she will sit there and whine until somebody picks her up.
I love that. And Justin immediately rebutted that. And he was like, yes, they do it because they have to.
That is accurate. Entirely accurate. Oh.
So I'm like, okay, I'm going to just maybe I can wear Justin down, and Toby too, our assistant producer, who's brilliant and a lovely human being and like usually 100% supportive. He's like, that's a terrible idea, Angel.
Oh, come on. People love dogs. I see other streamers with like dedicated puppy cams.
It is so funny. I literally told Justin last night, yeah, we're just going to have a Frankie cam, as he's running around. He's just going to try to jump into everybody's. He will, uninvited. He'll just try to, he does not understand. He doesn't care about consent. He's just going to jump right into your lap and make himself completely at home. So, okay.
Oh my gosh.
All right. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. I often imagine how they feel whenever they're roaming around the floor of the stream room, and I've got like terrain sitting on the floor off to the side. They're like, I'm a giant now, like they're probably so stoked that I would be enamored by a full size set of dungeon terrain that I could explore if I was a puppy.
Oh God. Now, I can have a gargantuan old empire pug or something. No. I'm kidding, production team. I'm kidding. That's not a thing. I'm not advocating for that. Oh, all right. Well, all good things.
Absolutely.
And I very much look forward to the next time we get to meet in that middle distance. Alex, thank you so much for your time. And
thank you for the awesome, evocative questions. I really enjoyed this. You've helped me to explore some stuff I didn't even know was rolling around back here.
That's the best. That's the best. I love that. And I will send you. I'll try my meager editing skills, and we'll see what I can do. And then I'll send you the product of that, and we'll see.
Yeah, it'll be awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing it, and I'll make sure to share it around because I do think a lot of people will really benefit from hearing some of the stuff that we talked about. Very insightful, pointed questions. I really like it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I put some. I not only did I not want to waste your time, but I mean, just honestly, with somebody of your caliber, I needed to dig, and I wanted to get that. So I'm glad that's going to be memorialized now, and we can promulgate that and get that out there. All right. Well, take care of yourself. Thank you so much, and I'll probably see you guys yucking it up on stream. Yeah.
You as well. I'll start cooking that roux for the gumbo when we have you down to visit.
Mm-hmm. All right.
See you, man.
Bye. Take care.